recently visited the Winchester Mystery House, and I have to admit that walking through it gave me a different feel than I was expecting. I was going in thinking this was one of those iconic spiritualist houses of all time, and what I found was a very touristy experience. I found that the house has been adapted so much for tourism that, spirituality aside, it lost a lot of its authentic Victorian charm. And it sort of felt to me like a more boring version of Disney's Haunted Mansion. So because of this, I was prompted to really dive into the history and try to understand what the real story of this house was. And what I found was that it was actually quite different than the story that was being told to visitors. And there are a few other creators online who have also found this out and talked about it, so I'm not breaking any new ground here, but I think it's important to tell the real story. The Winchester Mystery House is a Victorian mansion located in San Jose, California. The home was made famous by Sarah Winchester. The folklore is that Sarah inherited the Winchester Repeating Arms Company after the death of her husband, William Wirt Winchester, and she believed that she was being haunted by the spirits of all of those people who had been killed by the weapons her family manufactured. It's said that in an effort to confuse the spirits, she built hallways and doors to nowhere and continuously reconstructed the home for decades. However, this isn't totally right. Sarah Winchester was born as Sarah Lockwood Pardee in 1839 in New Haven, Connecticut. On September 30th, 1862, she married William Winchester. The couple had one daughter, who was born 4 years later. Unfortunately, the daughter only survived 10 days before passing away from illness. Tragedy continued for Sarah Winchester. In 1881, she lost both her mother, father-in-law, and her husband. After her husband passed away, Sarah inherited $20 million, which in 2021, adjusted for inflation, would be over $500 million, as well as a 50% stake in the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, making her one of the richest women in the world at the time. Eager to start fresh, and after seeking advice from a medium, Sarah moved to the West Coast. She purchased a farmhouse in San Jose, California, just south of San Francisco, where two of her sisters already lived. Sarah brought on workers and carpenters to alter the house, eventually turning the 2-story farmhouse into a 7-story home with 160 rooms. Sarah's actual intention was to expand her house so that her remaining family members could live with her. She wasn't happy with any of the architects that she hired, and so eventually she decided to continue renovating the home herself without an expert, which of course led to the haphazard house that now exists, with stairs and doors to nowhere. Because she had so much money, the issues with the house didn't slow her down. She kept going. Sarah would make one decision, face an unexpected result, and in order to resolve the problem, she would add a new addition or a new feature to the house. An article ran in the San Francisco Chronicle on February 24, 1895, that stated Sarah's obsession with building was connected to her fear of death. The newspaper wrote that Sarah believed if she stopped building, she would die. It also didn't help that she kept mostly to herself in town, and so it really stoked the rumors of her continuous building. This article is mostly cited as the impetus for the spiritualism rumors that eventually become connected to Sarah and the house, though the article itself does not say at all that Sarah was building a house to confuse the dead, only that she thought her own mortality was connected to the life of the house. In 1906, one of the most destructive earthquakes that we know about in human history struck San Jose, California, and much of the Winchester Mystery House was ruined. So much so that Sarah actually abandoned updating parts of the house impacted by the damage. Additionally, the mansion was reduced from 7 stories to 4 because of it. Sarah Winchester died on September 5, 1922, of heart failure. Her remains were transported back to New Haven, Connecticut. Only 5 months after her death, the Winchester Mystery House was open for paid tours, which have continued for a century. What's interesting is that when you visit the house today, the tour guides will tell you about how it's speculated that Sarah built this unruly house as a way to escape the spirits of those who had been killed by Winchester guns. They also show you the seance room, and they really drill in this narrative of hauntings. And if you look up the story of the home, many articles cite this as fact as well. However, there's very little evidence to support any of these rumors, or that Sarah held seances in the home at all. One historian believes that the seance room was actually the gardener's quarters, and to be honest, that makes sense. Standing in the seance room, I was left feeling uninspired. It didn't feel spooky or haunted or even that interesting. It felt like a small room that connected to another room via a cool hidden door. The history behind this haunting is certainly less exciting than the rumors, but we'd rather know the truth than perpetuate a story that isn't accurate, especially as it concerns real people and insinuates quote-unquote instability or obsession, when there was actually only a sense of adventure and a fun, if not chaotic, home improvement project.